Two dead man talking. Tonight's story is the next installment in the incredible series by Jgrupe. As ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, entitled Lost in a Labyrinth of Lies. Let's get straight into that. It didn't take long to realise that the hedge maze labyrinth we were in was massive. The bushes which blocked our way to either side were over 20 feet high. Their branches were thin and too weak to climb, yet the foliage was so thick it was impossible to go through. The only choice was to go forward. A note had been left for us telling us that we were trapped here, doomed to wander this maze for who knew how long. My only companion was Bill, an unusual gentleman I had met on Reddit, who I was beginning to distrust more and more. I couldn't remember if his eyes were that light shade of pale blue before. That was a sign one had been replaced by the pod people. We had encountered them in the cave as we tried to escape after poisoning the pool where the plant creatures made their home. It was entirely possible that they had replaced Bill with an imposter, but to what end? Except just to fuck with me, which was entirely possible. You know I can read your posts on no sleep, right? Bill asked from behind me. I'm not a fucking pod person, asshole. Oh, right. I forgot about that. It seems he still had his phone, as well as it had a signal, and was well charged. Too bad it seemed he was confined to the pages of Reddit as well on his device, unable to reach out for help. And someone would eventually notice that we were missing, I hoped. I'd really like to believe you, Bill, but how do I know for sure? A thought occurred to me. Wait a minute. I stopped him and looked him straight into his icy blue eyes. Say, I said. I'm a doctor. Fuck this, he said, walking away. Come on, Bill. I hurried to catch up with him and grabbed his arm. Just do it, okay? I put my mind at ease. I'll do it, see? I held my mouth open for a few seconds and he nodded. Okay, look. See? You happy now? No vine tongue. His teeth were coffee-stained and I could see a few were partially replaced with silver fillings. He was a regular person. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Now we know we're both who we say we are. I never doubted it, you paranoid son of a bitch, he said to me, a little bitter at my investigations. I decided to let that slide and kept walking along the path through the maze. We still hadn't come to any intersection yet. I looked up and saw high canopies of jungle trees above us. I wondered where we were. South America, perhaps? Africa or Australia? I could hear monkeys in the trees and birds 1,000 species cawing and squawking above us. And finally, we came upon a crossroads, and there were two choices, left or right. Well, which way is it gonna be? Bill asked. Neither route looked more inviting. They looked almost identical, except for the red flowers dotting the bushes here and there on the path to the right. Red flowers, I said. I wonder if that means something. Red can mean poison, right? It can mean a lot of things, Bill said vaguely. But yeah, my gut says, let's avoid those red flowers. Stick with the regular shrubs. The devil you know is better than the one you don't, right? Is that how that one goes? You're the writer. Alright, let's go to the left. I hope we're right about this. Well, we went down the path to the left and it stretched on for a long while. There was the occasional turn, but mostly we were just walking down straight, perfectly manicured stretches of bushes. Somebody must cut these things, I said, realizing how perfectly the hedges were trimmed. They'd have to be out here all the time, though. There's so many of them. And so where are the gardeners? I couldn't help but wonder if this was the vast hedge maze of some lunatic billionaire, a wealthy theocrat made rich from the donations of poor people to the church. Just as I was wondering about the gardeners, we heard a sound of a chainsaw up ahead. Finally, someone who could tell us how to get out of here. I burst into a run, not really thinking about the potential danger of the situation anymore, as much as I should have. Bill called after me, but I ignored him. He tried to catch up, his beer gut swaying back and forth as he ran. "Hold on, we don't know who that is." I was around the corner as he finished yelling. I still didn't totally trust him. What if he just wanted to stop me from getting out of there? A very tall man, nearly 7 feet, dressed in black, stood in the distance ahead of me. He was holding a running chainsaw and facing away from me. He didn't seem to be doing any sort of trimming. The giant machine he held was bigger than any chainsaw I had ever seen before, and it matched his stature. The blade was whirring loudly and appeared to be over 3 feet long. Although there was no way he could have heard me over the noise it was making, he turned around instinctively as I approached. His face, he had no skin, I saw as his jaundiced eyes met mine. It was all muscle, and I couldn't help but observe that there were worms living within it. White, little worms like maggots. He grinned at me from his lofty height. As he faced me, I saw his black clothing was that of an undertaker. The hands that held the chainsaw were also lacking flesh, and worms shone white from within them as they flexed and gripped the handle of the heavy gardening tool. He smiled at me then and spoke. I heard him well over the ripping roar of the chainsaw, despite the fact that he was still a ways away. He didn't yell, and his voice seemed to resonate inside my head like my own thoughts. More visitors. What fun! Back to the red roses you go, little ones. Take care not to breathe too deeply from their petals. Oh, what games we shall play! His voice was rasping and manic, full of excited energy and morbid joy. He stalked towards us, and we turned and ran in terror. Run, 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 run. The chainsaw roared as he called after us. Come back, little ones. Daddy Worms wants to see you. You can't run forever, but I can walk all day. Ha 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 ha! He tittered. I looked back to see he was indeed walking, his long legs taking him a great distance with each stride that he took. Even running at full sprint, we barely gained any distance between us and him. Run, back to the red flower path. We have to take our chances. Don't breathe in too deeply. He told us. You trust that fucking freak? Bill yelled at me as he ran. I didn't bother answering, but I had a feeling the giant undertaker with the chainsaw was telling the truth. After all, he was the gardener. They know their flowers, right? We got back to the path and broke off the other way towards the red flowers, which grew more plentiful as we ran. I looked back in terror and saw the muscly, fleshless, freakishly tall gardener was still not far back. He was walking at the same steady pace, his long legs taking him far with each step. He carried the chainsaw effortlessly and grinned with a mouthful of long, wide buck teeth like a joker on a playing card. Come back to me, friends. I have a game I like to play with newcomers. It's called Cut Your Fucking Throats. I held up my shirt over my nose, noticing the red flowers were easily disturbed and seemed to be releasing a pollen-like substance into the air. The powdery dust rose up around us as we ran. "Cover your face," I yelled to Bill, and he pulled his shirt up over his nose. I realized I was getting the worst of it running behind him. I was starting to feel itchy. I looked down at my hands and saw that they were red. Whiteheads and blisters began to sprout like mushrooms in a time-lapse animation on my arms and hands. I looked up ahead and saw we were going to be past the red flowers pretty soon. That was a good thing too. My skin felt like it was on fire. I wanted to itch it so badly, but I had a feeling that was a very bad idea. "Fuck, this place sucks," I shouted to Bill. He turned around and I saw his face was covered in white blisters as well, and a spreading, angry-looking rash that matched his facial expression. "No shit," he said, still running at a steady clip. "Now, how the hell are we gonna get out of here?" Lost in a labyrinth of lies. That old healing pool is looking pretty good right about now. Let's get straight into that. Bill and I ran for what felt like hours. The sound of the roaring chainsaw eventually faded into the distance, and we made another turn, unobserved by Daddy Worms. What kind of crazy fucking name was that anyways? I thought, and still it seemed to suit him. A 7-foot-tall, fleshless freak dressed as an undertaker with worms crawling around his complexion. Yeah, that's about right, I thought. The sound died out and was soon barely audible. The red flowers had caused us to break into rashes and painful blisters, but at least the 7-foot-tall, skinless chainsaw-wielding undertaker was now nowhere to be seen. I had a feeling he had friends, though this place was too huge, too impossibly massive for one man to take care of by himself. Maybe he wasn't a man at all though. A voice in my head said, maybe this whole place isn't real, or isn't really what it seems. I wiped sweat from my forehead and tried to catch my breath in the sweltering heat. It had been a brisk and cool morning, but now the air had become oppressive and thick with jungle moisture. We stopped to catch our breath and waited for the inevitable sound of the chainsaw to come around the corner, but it never came. It appeared that we had lost him. "I think he's gone," Bill said in between coughing and wheezing. "Thank God I quit smoking 20 years ago. Not that it matters now." He looked defeated and exhausted as he put his back to the hedge and eased himself down to sit on the ground. I noticed that he was trembling all over. "Come on, Bill," I said. "We're gonna get out of here, okay? I need you, man. Don't give up on me now." "Kid, I ain't never giving up. Just give me a minute, will ya? This heat, it's like a sauna in here." His breath was starting to sound wheezy, and his lungs were crackling like Rice Krispies. "Bill, did you hold your breath when we ran past those flowers? They were putting off some kind of gas or pollen, it looked like." "I don't know. I tried." He broke into a hacking cough and I saw his hand come away from his mouth, covered in blood. I had covered my face with my shirt and it had provided some small protection. He hadn't done the same. Bill wasn't looking so good suddenly. His face became pale and grey as he coughed and struggled to breathe. "Come on, we gotta keep moving. He'll have figured out which way we ran by now and he'll be backtracking to find us." I helped Bill to his feet and pulled him away, down the long path leading to the next turn. I saw we had two choices, left or right. What do you think, man? Which way? I looked at Bill, but he was looking more and more weak, his breath sounding worse every second. He didn't even respond. I put his arm over my shoulder and led him down the path to the right. It led in a direction away from Daddy Worms, and I thought that was safest. We kept walking along the path and Bill grew weaker and weaker. His breathing became rapid and shallow, each inhalation punctuated by raspy wheezes and bobbling croup. I saw what looked like a Venus flytrap to my left, but larger. It was so unusual. I leaned it for a look and the thing jumped out at me from the wall, its mouth full of razor-sharp teeth, snapping at me like a rabid dog. I took a piece out of my cheek with a rough and jagged bite, like broken glass scraping against my face. I recoiled and screamed, but Bill barely flinched. He seemed ready to collapse. I felt warm blood trickling down my neck, when suddenly I heard the chainsaw revving behind us once again. I looked back and saw the tall Undertaker, and with his 3-foot chainsaw blade stalking slowly and steadily towards us. His black eyes met mine and he broke into a wide grin. "Hello, friends. Daddy Worms has found you." His long strides were quickly closing the distance between us. "Go, kid." Bill looked at me with red and weeping eyes. His mouth was hanging open and he looked defeated. I remembered back to when I had first met him at the coffee shop. He had looked strong and intense. His resolve and determination had taken us all the way to our goal. We had destroyed the healing spring and set things right. At least, I had to believe we did. And now, he was on the verge of death, and I couldn't help but feel responsible. "Just go. You can't help me anymore. I'll just slow you down and get us both killed. Go! He's almost here." I looked up and saw that he was right. The impossibly tall chainsaw-wielding maniac was almost upon us. I stood and looked down with the worst guilt that I had ever felt in my life. This man, he was going to die, and I was indirectly responsible for it. My eyes flooded with sudden tears. "Go! Run! There's no sense in both of us dying." He broke off into a hacking cough as blood poured from his mouth and nose, and I ran. The sound of a familiar voice screaming in the distance behind me gradually faded and then was suddenly silenced in an instant. I ran and ran and ran. I lost track of the twists and turns, and after going down one random path after another, they all looked the same, but the horrors were fresh and new with each hedge that I ran past. I learned quickly not to stray too far from the center of the pathway. Poisonous mushrooms that spat toxic brown clouds in one area. Another had lizards that would hiss and whip their long tails as you passed, leaving long red marks and lacerations. Yet another was filled with rose bushes whose thorns snuck into the center of the path, nearly invisibly, so that I was a bloody mess after passing through the tangled, thorny vines there. I came to another section filled with snakes, and there were striped bright red, black and yellow bands. I couldn't go that way. I just couldn't. I hate snakes. I turned around and made my way back to the last fork in the road and hoped the other way was safer. And that way took me to a tunnel. It was an open doorway covered in ivy with steps leading down. This was different, I thought. The darkness swallowed me whole as I made my way down the earthen stairs, which took me to a root-laden dirt cellar space. I had stretched into the distance a long ways before being absorbed in darkness. I realized my phone had no signal there, down beneath the earth, but it felt right. It felt like perhaps the way out. I had no way of knowing. The lack of light was disconcerting, but I decided it was worth a shot. I backtracked and walked up the stairs into the sunshine to post this. I'm sending this out into the ether For all I know, it might be the last you will ever hear from me. The steps ahead beckon me onwards into the depths and the darkness. If I make it out, I'll let you know. Wish me luck. Wow, 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 wow. Another one, wow. Absolutely chest pounding and riveting stuff there. What a wonderful turn in this story, and really enjoying this series altogether. Big thank you to the author once again, Jgrupe, for allowing me to narrate his incredible work. A side note for you all to bear in mind is that Jgrupe has just set up a brand new narration channel on YouTube. I'm going to leave the link to that in the description box below, and it'd be awesome if you guys can head over there, smash the subscribe button, and give a little listen to his work as a narrator. And of course, best of luck with that to Jgrupe. If you need any tips or advice, feel free to contact me on my email or DM me anytime you like. Guys and girls, as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Of course, if you're an aspiring writer or just fancy having a crack at things, please do get in contact with myself at the usual email as on screen, which is dmtforestofear@gmail.com. I hope you guys are all well and happy, your family and friends alike, and you're keeping fit and focused as possible during these testing times. But above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.